Welcome to Millennial TeaV, everyone. We are your hosts, Adrian, Candace, and Liz, and today we're interviewing Sophia Rossi, who was a producer on The Hills, The City, and Fox's hit TV show Glee. She also co founded a female focused entertainment and lifestyle website called Hello Giggles, as well as a company called High Note, which sells plant based, gluten free, vegan pasta sauces. Welcome to the show, Sophia. We're huge Hills fans, so we're so happy you could join us.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. Is it on Netflix or something new? There's something new, I feel like there's newer fans, or is it somewhere new?
Yeah,
It's on Netflix, yes, but
yeah.
we're like long time
Oh,
fans.
yeah.
No,
But
no, I hear you. I thank you.
yeah.
Yeah. I just meant I totally yes, but yeah, I'm feeling really happy because I forget about the Hill all the time, but I do feel like really cool people don't forget about it. So you guys are fun.
Yeah, we love doing deep dives on this show. It was like our religion in high school. Like we have all talked about this, so we're super excited to get some behind the scenes details from you.
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. So we're a rewatch podcast, and we just went through Laguna Beach, like all three seasons, and now we're doing season one of The Hills. So we can't wait to ask you everything because it's still such an iconic show.
Okay, well, it's
Um,
just my memory. I mean, this is I think I could do good. Okay, right.
some of our questions will jog your memory, I'm sure. So, but we wanted to know about you too. So, how did you get started working on The Hills as a producer? And did you watch Laguna Beach?
Honestly, it's really backwards in a way because I was working in New York for this music producer Damon Dash, and
Oh
he
my
was a
gosh,
part of
yeah.
Rockefeller and Rockaware, and he did a TV show called The Ultimate Hustler on BET. And I helped that, and I was his assistant. And then I helped, basically was his point person there. I was 22 or 23. And one of the production people there was like, I'm actually leaving to go work at head of production of MTV. And we're doing a pilot based off of LA. It's a spinoff of Laguna. You should see Laguna. And I'm weirdly from Laguna. Like my dad was raised there. I'm
Oh.
not, but my dad is. And I was born in Long Beach and just have that background. And then I'm from LA. And so it was just so strange to be in New York for them to be like, do you want to go back home and do this
Yeah.
pilot of LA? And so then I watched Laguna. I was sort of late to it, but not enough. And then the pilot, actually, John Kerry's daughter directed the pilot. I don't know if you guys know that. It was really random.
No.
She was
That
a
is
film
the most
school,
random thing.
yeah, she was
Wow.
very AFI, and I remember Lauren and Heidi being like, "What?" Because they had just already done Laguna, it just but it was a lot more stylized and stuff than Laguna. But I remember them being like, "We've been doing this, we did the fashion show in Laguna,
Mm-hmm.
you know."
We've
Um,
got this.
we've got this. But yeah, I had a Motorola phone razor, and the joke with me, Heidi and Lauren, as we would call each other Moto, hey Moto, when it opens.
Yes.
So that's to set the tone of where I was there. So yeah, so I was a talent producer out the gate. And that was a model that was sort of copied from Laguna, but really copied, I think, from Simple Life and Osborne's. It's just you sort of retain the info, then you repeat the info to the crew, and they help sort of schedule out. But you're the point person for the talent.
Okay.
Really drives the storylines and locations.
So what was it like being a producer for a reality show like this? Were you assigned to certain cast members or did you help create any storylines, things like
I
that?
had I had all the cast members. I mean, for Laguna, it was clear that it was Lauren's story. I was told it's Lauren's story coming to LA. She
Mm-hmm.
has a roommate that she's gonna have at the villas. Then they saw Audrina, Colin and Adam saw Audrina by the pool, and they were like, she works at
Coyote.
Kyoto
Coyote.
Studios,
Yeah,
yeah.
she did actually work there. And we were and she was hot at this communal thing. She was very sweet. And then they were like, oh, that's an interesting story. And then Whitney came real time. She was upstairs going on another interview for GQ. And they were like,
Oh.
oh, like, that's so interesting. She would really be on this internship. And she's an LA girl.
Mm-hmm.
So it was cool. I mean, the joke is like I'm still best friends with Lauren to this day. Like we're sisters, and the rest of the cast I definitely see. But Lauren and but that I'd be like, 4 or 5 years older, and I'd be like, the kids are coming.
Mm.
I'm like, here, like the kids, like they were such
Love
kids,
it.
and like I think because I was from LA, I really liked it because it would be like I worked at Bolt House before was my first job, so like then I was like knew Brent and Jen to like recommend like that's what a girl would do, or like it was like
Mm.
if they're gonna have their birthday, I'm like, will you go to Koi? Like I was like I felt like LA was such a character, so I felt really happy to like influence it in that way, but it felt like a different version of reality in a way that like I haven't like fully processed, but like it's because it's like they were real people, but it wasn't like a reality show like we see it today
Right.
like in
Mm-hmm.
Housewives, but they were real people. So it was
Mm-hmm.
like their reality, but I think the like temperature and the time, like it wasn't the real world. We're not with them 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
We're sort of like entering situations. There's like there's an understanding that it's highly edited, but also real. So there's like a creative balance with it. It's not just cameras on 24. I mean, some situations like out of town or a club, but like
Mm-hmm.
it would be like, where would you go to lunch this week? And like sometimes they would film breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like I don't think they'd go to breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah.
Right,
Right.
right.
After a while down the line, they were like, I feel like you guys should be paying for this. And we were like,
Probably.
I didn't think you were going to go to that many meals too. So yeah, that's it.
So you didn't pay for their meals out.
Not in the beginning. I mean, I think something like a birthday dinner or something where we're um, like asking them to go out of their way but
Mm-hmm.
it's honestly, I don't think so in the beginning. I think it was because they were mostly at work and stuff, and it had to really be, I mean, like, I always tease Lauren because we'd be like, all right, we're going to like the next location. She's like, I have to finish. Like, Lisa told me that thing. And I'm like, okay, like, yeah. Okay, yes, you have to finish. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I'll just call a PA up here. Like, what? But
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then it would be like, she'd be like, are they gonna get mad that I like didn't steam this dress? I'm like, you're on the cover. It's like, I mean, it will be good, but like I do think they really extended that until like Us Magazine and all that. The first season and second season, they really are experiencing LA and just being filmed as not famous.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so there is this like incredible like humor to it, and authenticity. Honestly, it is
Yeah.
really reality. Like they are not like
Yeah.
going to Vegas for public appearances and that kind of like world. So it is
Yeah.
totally relatable. And Adam is like a genius at that stuff. I mean, clearly he's still doing it in different genres and stuff.
Yeah, I think that was the coolest part about Lauren was that like obviously she's pretty famous, but she didn't think of herself in that way. So she's like, I need to do really good in this internship and I need to do, all these things, and she took it
She's
really
still like that.
seriously.
Like she's always trying. I'd be like, I need to like really do my garden, or like I need to, and I'm like, okay, well you have a crazy clothes deal. I don't know that you need.
I don't need that. I
Like
don't know that you need to garden.
yeah. But she's incredibly. There was an editor once, and I always quote him that he said that she is like one of cinema's like greatest faces because they could like put happy music, sad music, like scared music, like anything you put to her face, she really can like hold like the camera, and so she just was such a great person to capture, even though like in truth, she would even say this, like, she's pretty boring, you know what I mean? So she was like so she would say, like, "I don't know how you made, like, a life out of it," but I think that was also the endearing part is, like, she did care. She really did wanna go I mean, you'll go down the line, like, with the Paris stuff, and, like, she really
Yeah.
did
Mhm.
wanna, like,
Mm-hmm.
go to the ball and do the project and be in
Mhm.
fashion,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and make a name for herself in some way, like, she wanted to, like, care.
I don't know if you have seen this show, but there's this television show called Unreal,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, my friend
yes,
Sherry's in it. Yeah, yeah, I
yes,
love it.
yes. So I love that show. I'm a huge
I thought
fan,
they did a
and
great job, yeah.
they make being a producer on a reality show look so insane. Did you guys set up situations the way that it is portrayed on shows like Unreal? Like, were you kind of in there asking the hard questions to get those sort of reactions?
I mean, it's really a balance. Like, I think it would be like the worst of it would be like Lauren and Jason are having problems. She's telling me that they have problems. I can kind of tell. I actually really loved Jason. I think of him like fondly and sweetly. I think they were just like young and a little bit wild and maybe some alcohol, whatever. I like on some sort of filming break, they had a problem. I think she was like, I think we're going to break up or something. And so there is this like responsibility because you're like filming the show. It's like, okay, would you be comfortable sort of like meeting back up with him? And so like, we're going to have him bring the stuff, like those kind of things. Yes. Or
Yeah.
like, you know, it's someone's birthday. So like you might all need to be out in this scenario. Like, are you comfortable doing that? Or it's your birthday. I think who would you invite at your birthday? Like, you know, there's this job, your job has an assignment. Like, were there other friends that would show up at your assignment? Like, you know, would you invite them to a work thing or not? And so, and especially with Heidi having the club stuff, like, but the hard part I would say is that it was incredibly authentic in that we would film 3-hour dinners with very little coming
Wow.
in. So
Mhm.
it's not like it's like, but the only beats we would have to get just because of editing and we never would know. Like we would have a joke that said like, is this before or after Christmas? Or is this before like they just
Yeah.
want to
Mhm.
know like time frame, but they wouldn't like not have their inner dynamics. So I think if you just like sit and literally watch a 2-hour dinner, you know, like
Yeah.
a 3-hour dinner in a van with like your friends and PAs, and you're just like, oh my God, they're ordering dessert. Like you're just
Yeah.
like, take it. And then like it was not my invention. I think it was like Sham or Jason Sands, one of our directors, or maybe even Rachel Morrison, who's like an amazing DP. She was like nominated for an Oscar. She was our DP. And they were all like AFI people too. So there was like a really big emphasis on making the show look good. Our producer, Colin Nash, like really did hire great people. So it was like stylized, but like we would like sit and watch them like eat dinners forever. Like I always make fun of Brody and Lauren because one time they were like, lobster bisque. And then they were like, I think it's a soup. I think no, they're like, I think it's a pasta. And they're like, yeah, I think it's a pasta. And I'm like, it's not a pasta. Like, you know, like, but they invented a thing called like room tone. And so at the end of every scene, we would have to pause for sound. And then because they were pausing for sound, they were like looking around, having weird looks. And so you just use a lot of that for reactions. So those are the sort of produced parts, you know, or like exits and entrances. Like we got caught one time because got a permit at the airport. It was like film arrival and film departure. Like, okay, that's fake, but like you go to the airport twice. I don't know, you know, like
Right. Right.
Well, and we were thinking of things like, so like, let's say it's Lauren's birthday or Heidi's 6 month anniversary with Jordan. You guys knowing that those were like big like things for them in their calendars, were you secretly behind being like, perfect, we got to schedule something that's going to
yeah, yeah. I
be
mean,
a
I think that
conflict?
well, you have to keep in mind this is coming off of Laguna producers, and with Laguna, you have the school year, you have prom, you have, you know, like so
Mhm.
and that was based off of you know, the OC. So like there are interpersonal relationships that are based in high school, based around a timeline of events in your life. When you're out of college and you're out of high school, like the real world events literally get down to like if you have a work event, networking, or a birthday. But we would joke all the time because they would be like, "We can't work on our birthday. We can't work on our birthday." We're like, adults work on their birthday. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
where that was coming, and I'm like, I'm gonna break it to you. Like, like we want to see your birthday. They're like, we can't go to work on our birthday. I'm like, in what world do people? Yeah.
Love that.
So yeah, that was like, so yeah, so we use those like anniversaries or things to sort of um move along the story and move along the like relationships, but they would hang out a lot without us and they did really live together in a lot of ways, you know, and so there would be
Mhm.
tensions and not tensions and they would tell us. And I think that honestly they the way they filmed it, they made like practicals in that's what we would call them, like in their apartment. So it would be like a crazy light fixture, but that was like what we would use for filming.
Mm.
This place was set up so like and it wasn't too studio, but like we could come in as a crew with 3 cameras and sit in our corner, and it wasn't like every day they're building out something. So there was a little bit of a flow where like the crew was their family too. And so
Mhm.
and like they had done, some of them had done it in the high school, so it's like, come over and I'm gonna like talk to my friend, or like I'm gonna do
It was
this.
very, like, normal for you guys to be hanging out with them or working at that point.
Mhm.
Yeah, like, we never hung out outside of work, like, I mean, like, in Paris, like, when we were all there for, like, Thanksgiving, like, we'd have, like, a dinner or something, or, I
Mhm.
mean,
Mhm.
they like, it was a lot of their time. We also just kept getting extended. So, like, we never had, like, "Oh, this is the first season and there's 10 episodes." It was like, and then there's more. Like, we never were off for, like, 3 or 4 years, So we just
Mhm.
all
Yeah.
when they became so famous, and then it, like, you're doing something delayed that Us Weekly is, like, doing, and so it just
Mhm.
became less fun to me. I did it up until the end of The Hills, and I did The City. I didn't, like, care as much, and I definitely didn't do the reunion.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, we have questions about that later, but with you being so close to them because you're working like so like in their space and like in their personal lives, was it challenging to like maintain that friendship with them because they knew that you would be like talking to them and it felt like very much as a friend, but you were also like working as a producer on the show to create
And
like
getting
drama.
information, yeah.
I think I was friends with Lauren. I was friends with Whitney, because we both grew up in LA, and she also, like, never wanted to film. So she was just, like, always saying, I was like, okay, this is, like, so annoying. But I, like, could get why. I'm like, she actually goes to USC, like, why would she want to do this? But I never, like, Whitney. And then Heidi I loved totally. And then Spencer, once Spencer came in, I really liked Spencer. It's just, like, they were more professional about it. Like, not more professional, but, like, there was definitely a, like, industry business around them being on the
Mhm.
show that was less,
Makes
like,
sense.
that wasn't their day-to-day life. Like, they happened to do the show that would help them do all these other things, whereas Lauren was, like, she's the star. I mean, it's for them, but she was the star of the show in some way, so that was, like, she was the one going to, like, it was her life. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
it was, like, more probably authentic to me to be friends with her. And also Audrina was, like, totally lovely and easy, and, like, totally, that was also more of, like, a really, like, lovely professional. But, like, I would, like, fight with Lauren or, like, get annoyed at Whitney. But, like,
Mhm.
that was just, like, a very different, like, in Paris, I would be like, the joke is, like, I'm, like, not sure, but I think I made her cry about the dress, like, right before she,
Mm.
Ah.
because she was being really bratty and, like, jet laggy, which we were all. And I'm like, "Do you think anyone wants to be here without their family either?" Like, in to take you. I was like, "Okay, I'm just tired." In retrospect, I'm like, "I get it." Like, you were, like, throwing you around Paris.
Aw.
Well, after the ball, she had all these, like, little, pins in her hair from her updo, and they were getting these, like, beautiful shots of her in the, motorcycle just, like, going around. She's like,
Mhm.
"No more," and it was, like, raining in Paris. She's like, "No more. You're just gonna put a Kelly Clarkson song and make me look sad outside the hotel, and then tell me how you feel." And I was like, "She is an excellent producer," because
She
honestly,
knows,
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
we were like, "You know what? It's a wrap. You're right." I think we just didn't fight her on it, and that we were like, "Got it." So, like,
Go
I love that.
Lauren. Yeah, calling the shots at that
Yeah.
point.
I could talk to her like that, you know what I mean? So that was
Mhm.
like that's what I mean by a friendship. Like, we were deep colleagues, and, like, now we're family. But
Mhm.
I was also,
Mhm.
like an older sister, and I never crossed the line to, like, I was pretty measured. I'm sure at times Heidi and Spencer felt like I didn't take their side, right? But I don't think I think I was pretty. I thought I was as measured as, like, as I could be and stuff. And
Mhm.
I have a lot of love for those early days with Heidi. Spencer, I get a kick out of, and I knew him different ways from LA too, but I there was, like, a simplicity to Heidi and Lauren when they first moved here that I have, like, endearing feelings
Yeah.
about,
Mhm.
that I'm like, "Oh, they, like, lived in the villas." Like, it's like
Mhm.
the Grove was, like, just being something, and we, like, would park at the Grove as, like, our work day, like, very, like, they live near Ross, you know what I mean? Like, it
Mhm.
was
Yeah.
so random. Yeah.
Aw.
Were you involved in the post-production side at all? Like, did you get to have a hand in any of the way that they edited the show, or was that
Yeah,
separate?
I was definitely more production and on during post, and I would go see cuts and stuff, because a lot of it they would add, like, ADR. But I think one of the most telling things is, like, our editors were really funny, and so when they would do cuts, or Adam would bring me in to look at stuff, like, I never had to give notes, but I would look and I would always laugh, and I would always, like, know where it was going. it's very much carted out, so
Yeah.
the story editor on that episode would come to set and be like, I need more lines here, blank, to like fill things out. So that's why it would be sort of like, it's around Christmas, like could they, and then it became like a real, not nightmare, but really annoying for like continuity,
Oh
like
yeah.
Oh yeah.
their nails, their jacket, like that's when we sort of like lost the thread there. I'm like, who cares anymore? But yeah, it was like a big thing. Like, did they wear the nails? And because they'd have to do a few things in a few days and stuff like that.
So this question is going to be really specific, so we'll see if you remember.
Okay.
In season 1, there is a Teen Vogue Young Hollywood party.
Yes.
And Heidi and Audrina crash the Young Hollywood party, which Lauren is working, and Lauren
At the
is
Roosevelt.
Yes, yeah. And so Lauren is super upset because Lisa Love tells her, you can't have friends here, they can't sit here, and they end up sitting in the very VIP spot that Lisa Love told them not to sit. Was that set up, or did they actually try to get into the party through Lauren? Or was that sort of like you guys told them, hey, go to the Young Hollywood party?
I bet you it's a mixture of like 5 different things. Like, Lauren was probably scared that her friends were going to go. We probably were like, you could go, and like, I want to say that the visual for that, she's by the pool at the end, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah.
I think because people were so cinematic, I think that like, this is maybe revisionist history, but I do think we maybe worked back from like Lauren being upset at the party and she's by the pool, this like great shot. Like when we would do a
Yeah.
scout.
Mm.
And so like
Mhm.
what it takes to get there, I don't think like maybe Lauren and all them had all the info, but I think they just like went along, for that.
Made for great television.
I
Yeah, no,
know.
Yes.
I remember in the scout, and they were like, yeah, by the end of the pool. Like, I do remember, like, there'll be something dramatic about being in Hollywood and this, like, first party, and that they'll try to go. And Teen Vogue was really down for a lot. They're like, well, we wouldn't let a friend come. And like, hey, what would happen if a friend tried to come? And then we're like,
Mhm.
okay, Lauren, would you be upset if your friend tried to come? She's like, I don't want to get in trouble, And then it's to the friends, like,
Mhm.
would you try to crash a party? And they're like, we would do that. Like, it's like, it's like 17 layers to then be like, okay, they are here. But it wasn't like, oh my God, they're here. Like they have to be mic'd up and walked into
Yeah,
Mm.
the
yeah.
Mhm.
room.
Yeah.
So like it was never like, we're gonna bombard you with something like that's gonna be like hard for you to handle in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Since you talked about working at Bolt House, tell us about that experience and what you did. And we also wanted to know if Heidi's job at Bolt House was real. Like, was that something she applied to, or was that something MTV set her up with?
She did not apply, but I set her up. Basically, it's like Heidi needed a job. What is a job that would be access to nightlife and stuff? And I worked there with my friend Catherine Power, who does like merit and verse and like who, what, where. And we were door girls. And I worked for Amanda Demi, and Catherine worked for Brent. And then I went off to like New York for like a few years to work for Damon. So like 18 to 21, I was like with Bolt House people. So they were like, and I was like a girl who went out, but I wasn't like a partier because I worked at the clubs. And then we thought, okay, this is a cool thing for her to do. Heidi, would you do this? Yeah. And she was like, great, I would do it. I would say of the jobs that were the fakest, from real to fakest, Audrina, real job, like real, like I would feel bad for her. She'd be like, guys, I can't take off work today. Or if you guys come, like I have to, like, I don't want to get in trouble. Like that realist job. Second, Lauren and Whitney, because it was an internship. So like, but they did want to make it real. And then third, sort of like Heidi, like she did it like it was a real job, but I think like it could have gone like either way.
That makes a lot of sense given
Yeah.
how
Mhm.
Heidi is like excited about work, but she's also like, I don't want to work on
Yeah,
the
she like
show.
wanted
Yeah.
to do it and like work the event, but I think at that point she was like, I have other dreams and desires. Like I'm just
Yeah.
Right.
show is like pretty much doing that for me. So if you want me to like go somewhere, I will. Like that
Yeah.
was sort of the vibe.
Well, and while we're talking about like jobs, we want to know if Lauren's internship at the very end of season 1 was that a real internship?
The Paris internship.
No, that was real in that she was offered that. Lisa had an experience like that. I think that she had experience back in the day, and Lauren was sort of giving it up, but I think we had the opportunity to basically film in Paris. They were like,
Mm.
you can do, I think it was Karl Lagerfeld or something, because like he can have an internship, and they were like, great, and she just like did not want to do it. I think she really didn't want to leave Jason at the time.
Would it have been for the whole summer though, or was it just like a short little like 1 week, 2 week thing?
I mean, it's hard to know. I bet you like I could have seen both ways. She goes for the summer and we only film a little bit. I just don't know if we would have had the budget to do the whole thing, or like
Right.
Mhm.
we only film her for 2 weeks, but like still she gets to be with them. And like, I think Chanel would have worked with us in some way. It was just one of those things where you're like, oh my God, this is like an amazing opportunity. How could you not take it? Like
Yep.
Adam was like, I kind of got why she didn't want to take it. I think she was just like figuring it out with her boyfriend, and like, it probably sounded like it'll be stressful. She's like from Laguna. She's not like going to Paris is like, down the block. It's like a big decision
Yeah.
to go.
Yeah.
And like, she's like in fashion school. So I think Adam rightfully was like, he was very like, how could you not go to Paris? Like, how, like she's like, that's crazy. Like, and telling her. And I think that almost made her be like, I'm not going to Paris, and then so that like the storyline down the the thing. But people always say like she'll always be the girl who didn't go to Paris.
Mhm.
Always.
I
Yep.
mean, we were shocked that she didn't go to Paris. Honestly, all of
Yeah.
us, we were.
I mean, in another setting, which is why it's so relatable, she would have loved to go to Paris, and it would have been a great. And honestly, it probably would have been a really boring episode though. It'd been like because work stories are so
Yeah.
boring unless if she was with Jason back at home, worried
Yeah.
about him, or heartbroken, or like willing to date. Like, I don't know. It might have just ended up being this like work story, and like ultimately work stories are just so boring.
Mm.
Mhm.
So like I'm kind of fine with her having not done it.
Can you tell us more about Whitney's spinoff and how the city kind of came to be? Like, is there a reason they chose Whitney? Did you move to New York to do that also?
I did move to her to do that. The city is so interesting because it was like we should do a show, a spinoff in New York. It was never supposed to be Whitney. We tried to cast a million people, and then everyone in the castings, because the show was popular, would be like, "We're the Whitney, we're the Audrina, we're more like the Lauren." They had like knew these sort of like archetypes of people. They were like, okay, we kept wanting to do it. I really wanted to do it. I was like, I'll go to New York for it. Like, I thought it was just such a fun, because I think it was like just a good opportunity. And then we sort of all landed on, well, if Whitney wants to go and has this interest, like maybe we start through the lens of Whitney and see what like comes from it. Like, I
Mhm.
don't think anyone would have thought, let's do a spinoff with Whitney. Not in that a negative way, just even herself. I don't think she would have ever wanted that. So I think it was like a light touch of like, what if you went to New York and stuff? And so I think that was a big adjustment for her to go from
Mhm.
being like part of four, just sort of having to carry a lot of those stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Hills was really early in reality TV, which was nice because it started off super authentic and we had a chance to really get to know the characters and believe all of their storylines because a lot of it was organic. In
Yeah.
your opinion though, what point did the show start to feel more scripted and produced? Because there was like kind of a spot around season 3 or 4 where things kind of shifted for the audience. I don't know if it was on production side.
Yeah, I think it shifted. I don't know numbers. It definitely shifted when they got famous and when they had internal drama where it was like really hurting each other. Like that was kind of harder. That's when it changed the dynamics.
Well, so not specific to season 1, but were there any storylines that MTV tried to make happen that just didn't work out? Because like in season 1, we saw them try to encourage like Audrina and Brian to date and really like try to like push that, I feel like, but that just didn't end up happening. But were there anything else that like you guys had filmed or had ideas on that just didn't work out?
I think no. I think they probably tried to encourage like less interpersonal and more like work stories, or what do they do outside. I think we didn't know like how much do people want to know like what they do outside of their relationships. And now reality TV is just their relationships. I think we didn't know how much people wanted to know about that. So I think MTV probably wanted more work stories.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
Makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
What was the most challenging part of being a producer on this show? Like, was it the friendship aspect and then trying to keep, like everybody happy but also still friendly?
I think the most challenging was the lack of we would film so much until it aired, and then it aired, and that would sort of change the dynamic. And then people sort of like leaning into parts of themselves that were like how they were portrayed. And I think it was harder for me, like if someone was upset or sad, like if Lauren was sad,
Mhm.
or if Whitney was like annoyed about something. And, like, yeah, I think that was the harder part for me. And like, especially when like Lauren and Heidi fought.
Mhm.
Mm.
And before we move on from our like Hills questions, we want to know like your opinion on some of like the classic Hills drama. So just a few here.
Okay.
The fallout of Lauren and Heidi's friendship.
Galaxy brain from like it being like, so long ago. I think that there are friendships that you are super close with because you're like 20 and have nothing else going on. And so, and like they're moving to a new city together and they're like best friends. And it's sort of like a relationship. And then one gets in a relationship or slash some people get famous and like there's just a shift. So I think it was sad and unfortunate, but I don't know that their friendship beyond that shared experience of the show or living in LA, like would have, I think they had a really good time together. They used to laugh a lot and they were really like joyful and funny and silly and definitely different. So I could see a version if you were like, they've been friends for 20 years since they did the show. Like that would have been one version.
Mhm.
I could see another version being like, totally they grew apart and it's like, no bad feeling. And I think it's somewhere in the middle.
And do you remember, I just thought about this. Did Heidi really move to LA to go to FITM? Cuz like she kind of went to one day of school and then very quickly
She
was
did
like I
didn't
don't
she
want
do
to.
the one day of school in San Francisco?
She went to school in San Fran and then she
Heidi
went with
Lauren
Lauren
met
in
her in a
LA.
class. Yeah, because
Yes.
Mhm.
Heidi came up to her in class
Yeah.
in San Francisco, and they were like, "You're blonde, I'm blonde, we should be friends." And then
Yep.
Yes.
she would come home to Laguna and be filming a little bit.
Mhm.
And then when Lauren was moving to LA, she's like, "I'll move to LA." And then Adam was like, "Great, that'd be a great show if you guys like living together."
They actually showed her going to FITM for one day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in
that makes sense.
LA.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But I don't know that that would have been her path regardless. I mean, she definitely liked fashion, but I think she was always like, sure, I'll do that. I think she just wanted like kind of not to be in a small town and be like where the action was and curious. Like I think she would have like if it wasn't Bolt House, I think Heidi would have like not worked anywhere, but would have totally been curious about like a few industries around that time.
Totally.
Mhm.
Like what's
Yeah.
LA like? Like okay, like I'm like a charming, really smart like woman, and I think Lauren was probably a little bit more like I'm fashion,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and I think like Heidi probably more like played around with that.
That makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't, well, she was with Brian in the pilot, right? Or Jordan.
Jordan, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I think I met them when they were together because they would always be like on Bible, on Bible.
What did you think about Audrina and Justin Bobby's relationship?
Well, it was so interesting because Justin Bobby was a hairdresser as well. He gave great haircuts. He would give me a haircut. And he was on, I think he was like doing it for Maroon 5 and stuff. I felt like individually I liked him and I was surprised more and more that he would like film with us based on like how he was filming. I was like, why would you like but like Audrina, I think is like an absolute doll and like had a very big life outside of the show, like had friends, went out because she had like lived here and like worked there. So
Mhm.
it was kind of cool that like we didn't find Justin Bobby. This was just a guy that was sort of tormenting her. That was like semi interesting to us, like in the second season, and it got more and more interesting. But like, I don't think we knew like that was going to be a storyline. I think we were like, what's up with
Mhm.
Audrina? Like, what are real guys that you're dating with? And I think it was a scenario in which he like maybe was supposed to film and then canceled, and she was already sort of like complaining about this guy, and we're like, oh, would this guy ever like want to be on camera? And then he was like dodgy, and then that it sort of
Which made for
became
perfect TV.
Yeah.
Yes.
there's always this like dynamic of you're on a reality show or you're willing to be on a reality show or you're like fine, I'll be on a reality show. And there's very
Mhm.
different ways to, and there's no wrong way,
Mhm.
but there's
Yep.
always a different way to interact with someone when it's sort of like he wasn't like I'll do it all the time, I'll film anytime. He was like our producer Sarah had to always talk to him and convince him. I would get so annoyed at him. I'm like, just do it or don't do it. Like you're so like I would like try to neg him, but like I think he wasn't just like, sure, I'll go on and be with Audrina, you know, kind of vibes. Like it's so he was a little bit more of a challenge that like spoke to that
Yeah.
story.
So we wanted to ask a couple questions about you
Yeah,
also.
please. Thank you.
So we wanted to know, is it hard for you to watch reality TV shows now since you have worked on them?
I don't watch. I really enjoyed Unreal, so that was fun for me,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
and that was fun only because, like I said, like if you're no phones or a lot of alcohol somewhere, that's like times 1,000. I cannot watch TV. I just watched the Meghan Markle or Meghan
Oh my goodness.
Sussex. Sorry,
You're right.
so sorry. Sussex. I watched, and it's so much ADR, and
Uh,
Mhm.
I can't. I was just watching it with a friend, and I was like, I actually can't watch because like anytime he's like, "How are you so good at this?" I'm like, I don't know. This is like a Hills like special. It's like the camera is not on you, but you're like, it'd be really interesting if we go like it's like a take you to point A to point B that we couldn't
Mhm.
get you to say, and so you're saying it, and there's just so much ADR in that, so I can't watch without ADR. And then like one of my childhood best friends is Nicole Richie and from Simple Life and stuff. And she and I really bond over like it's just hard to watch when you know how much in a kind way producers are involved of every step of the way. And
Mhm.
mm-hmm.
exits and conversations and like it doesn't make anything not real. Like we were really there, like we would really do that. So I think it's hard for me to watch reality like anything ever because I'm just like I respect it is why I don't want to watch it. I just can't get lost in it. Like it's not background to me. It kind of still will always feel like work, you know, and in some way. And so no, I don't like I don't get to like relax in it. But that's okay. I honestly I had so many years where I mean I did it for like 7 years, both, you know, and these were like
Mm-hmm.
my 20s. Like I basically
Mhm.
23 to like 29. Like I remember my 30th birthday, we had just like wrapped. So I think I had my pill of like real people and their real lives. And then the balance of people being like famous and stuff. So, and it hit like a real extreme point and all like that. But like, so I feel so warm towards everyone. And I think we were all young, but I do feel like the benefit of like there was a lot of laughter. Like I ran into Brody at like an Air One and we'll just like laugh. Like I'll just like because they would tease me, I would tease them. Like we had a really good rapport and stuff,
I
you
love
know.
it.
And
Yeah.
but yes, I cannot watch reality. But I really it makes me really happy because I couldn't find a job after the Hills. I mean, I could that was this hybrid. Like I wanted to go work in scripted and then I couldn't like I hadn't also just been in straight up reality. So I'd like tried America's Top Model or I tried like other things to do, but this was so like scripted. So I really got blessed with Glee because Glee is similar where it's like relationship, young people storyline meets music. The music sort of pushes along the story. And so
Yep.
I got really lucky and that is like what I wanted, but I'm a non-writing producer, but I'm like activating stories. So I
Mm-hmm.
just got really lucky.
What advice would you give to somebody who wanted to be a producer like that or get into that sort of position in the industry?
If you are a good communicator and you can hold two opinions at once, it's just a lot of communication. And honestly, I always say this is like I wasn't like an assistant and I probably have been variations from a CEO to a producer to whatever of really just a really good assistant. And like that is like the skill set I think I've had like the closest to is like, I hear you. Okay, you're saying this. I need to like go then information to be. So I think if you're interested in communicating and you like to be in the mix, it's great. A big part of being a producer, especially on a show like this, is creating a sense of calm and that like we got you. Like, okay, so that's going on. Like you can't be drama and you can't be anxious because they're gonna feed off on that. You could be annoyed and you can be like disappointed or you could be like encouraging, but you really have to create a space of like, hey, filming's tomorrow. Like you have to be like, how are you feeling about tomorrow? Okay, great. I don't think she's feeling so well. So like, how are you guys going to feel about talking to each other? It's really like a therapist. Really, if you're interested in interpersonal relationships and how they work out, people just don't want to do this anymore in the same way. Like everyone wants to be like a writer or a director, but there are very few people who just like want to produce. And I just liked making it. I didn't need to do more. I just thought it was fun to be like finding the location, what they were going to talk about was like enough for me. I
Yeah.
didn't.
Mhm.
I'm so happy that you brought up the show because I really have like forgotten a lot about it. And so I think part of my like next steps in life is like I want to do this podcast about called God Girl and like talking to people more. And I realized like, oh, so much of like my preparation in my career was like really trying to like hear people out and then
Yeah.
also
Mhm.
hold my own stuff. So I joke that I have like two opinions. But like, I think that's what reality gives you, is you have to both be
Yeah.
like Lauren would be like, "I would never do that. I would never do that." I'm like, "Well, we would never be in Paris together, also filming at the Korean Ball. So guess what? Like, we
We're here.
are here,
Yeah.
and I guess we would do it because we're here, you know? Like, because she would be like, my character would never do that. I'd be like, well, I'm going to tell you, I think she would,
Yeah.
you know? I, I think she would. I could see a world in which she does. Yeah, they were some of like the best years of my life, but that I also had to really take space from. And Lauren does too to this day, And
Yeah.
I
Oh,
think
yeah.
what's so great is like she never wants to be back on camera. I think the thing to really remember, because it's like the darker part of it, the like Perez Hilton world, the Us Weekly, is
Mhm.
like she was being compared to like Reese Witherspoon of like why she can't find love at like truly 22. You know
Oh
what I
my
mean?
gosh.
And like
Yeah.
is like not cool to be famous in that way. Like,
Yeah.
because like, Reese Witherspoon or Jennifer Aniston have movie careers. Lauren just had that.
Yep.
And so like
Mhm.
the amount of like personal, so the fact that she has this like blessed, beautiful life in Laguna with her kids and her husband, like just makes me so happy that like, but also she is super like afraid of being on camera or doing, and having
Makes
anything.
sense. We love that you worked on Glee because all three of us absolutely love that show. I like to think that I have an inner Rachel Berry in my
Love.
soul. I'm a theater kid at heart, so I love that. But I wanted to know what your experience working on a fictional TV show versus a reality show. Like, how was the experience different?
Well, this was super different because reality, I'm dealing with the cast all the time, right? Like I'm making that the storyline. In scripted, I like never went to set. I'm always in the writer's room talking about the characters. It doesn't really matter if I meet them or not because they're going to still have to do the lines. They're not really going to like push back. I don't need to like mold their opinion or work with them. So it was super like freeing in Glee in that way because it's like, oh my god, like I remember like my biggest contribution is like so silly, but I like came into the room and I was like, have you guys been watching Catfish? It's so crazy. Like da 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 da. And then like Ryan was like, we should have a catfish storyline. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, sure, like that's like an interesting, like, and like it would just be things like that. Whereas, like, if that were reality, if I was like catfish is happening, I'd be like, I'd have to like literally set up Lauren getting catfished, like,
Right.
Mhm.
like
Right.
Mhm.
find the guy and cast him and then have him call her. And I'm like,
Right.
oh, I just get to say that and then we write that and we do it.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that was the difference is like getting real people to do it versus actors. But the opposite to that is like not as intimate, not as connected. You're really connected with the writers and the producers, not the show. So like once I saw the show, and obviously it was great to have it come to life, but
Hmm.
I didn't care in the same way,
Hmm.
But I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
But I think it's like very different when you're not interacting. Like Leah Michelle doesn't need to like go over her storylines. I mean, she might have some hesitation or some stuff, but no, yeah.
And we mentioned in your intro you co-founded Hello Giggles, which was then purchased by Time, and you now co-own High Note. Can you tell us more about like these companies and what inspired you to start these companies?
Well, Hello Giggles was very much after like The Hills where I realized I love pop culture. I love a way to like encourage my love of like kind of like my relationships, like the way like on The Hills it's like, oh, Heidi works there, she should do that. So for Hello Giggles I'd be like, you should write for us or we should do that. So that was sort of like a collaboration with my partners Molly and Mac Lear and Zoe Deschanel. And then after we sold High Note, I was like, I guess I don't do media and I should find like a product. And I like loved Roy Choi, my friend Justin. So we have this product. I mean, honestly, full disclosure, CPG is so hard. And like we just like closed it down, but we're leaving it open for food service or anything. Cause I was like,
Mhm.
I guess I just really want to go back to content and pop culture. I was happy to have a product because I thought, honestly, I thought I was exhausted by dealing with people And so I thought if I had a product that would sort of take me out. But like, I think like realistically, I'm like meant more to deal with people than product. So I'm really excited about like whatever is new to come, whether it's like this podcast or, like sort of more forward facing things in like pop culture. So yeah, that's like where I'm at now.
You've been like all over the place. I love it. You've done so many things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the hard part is like the only thing I'd want to do right now again is like have my company back, but I'm so grateful I sold it. So I'm like, what would today's version of Hell Giggles be? And like, what is it that I like to do? Is like, I like to chat, like
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
like to chat about things and trends and like, maybe that's a Substack, maybe that's I have some ideas, but it takes so much energy to start a company that you have to care. Thank God, like people just not just do it. So I I I'm like excited to figure that out right now.
Podcasting is really fun.
It sounds fun. I
Yes.
did
So
one
fun.
practice one and I was like, honestly, my biggest takeaway is that this was fun and how
Yeah.
can I but what you're recreating for me is like the parts when I think of the hills, I think of being in the van with people and laughing. I think of
Mhm.
on Glee, I think of being in the writer's room with like Brad Felchuk and he's like, foam rolling his leg while he's like talking. Like it's happening, like and I just think of like laughing. And so like I just think that's what I'm looking for is more opportunities to like laugh.
Yeah.
Totally.
Mhm.
Yeah. I thank you so much for your patience in scheduling this and you're making me feel proud. I think I felt a lot of like shame is not the right word, but it's like in retrospect really cool about the hills. And it was cool in its time, but I think because it was reality, I like didn't know how to feel about it. So like, now it makes me feel
Mhm.
really proud that there's like love towards it. So
Oh
thank you.
no, we
Totally.
we are fully in love with the hills. It is not something to feel ashamed of.
Oh,
Mhm.
thank you.
We have modeled our lives after this.
Well, I feel very good about all that. Thank you.
We have one more question after this, but first, where should our listeners go to follow you? And is there anything else that you want to promote right now that you're working on?
Honestly, just Instagram. So Fifi, like, that's my vibe. That's where I lay.
Love it. So our podcast is called Millennial TV because we're millennials and we are so nostalgic for that era. So we always like to end our podcast with this one question. What is one thing that you miss from the millennial era, the 2000s?
My BlackBerry.
Yes.
Mhm.
I produced that entire show on my BlackBerry. I was just like in chats, we honestly used to call it BlackBerry Productions. Like I did so much. I would just text them throughout every scene. Like I mean, I guess that's texting now, but there was something faster.
No.
Like
We
There's
Mhm.
had
something
to.
about that keyboard
Yes.
on the
Keyboard, yeah.
BlackBerry.
the
Yes.
keyboard, I was like, we're getting shit done. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
and it's like sleuth. You know what I mean? Like it
Yes.
wasn't, and even
Yep.
and we had a sidekick for a while, and we would do that. But really, with the BlackBerry, I was like on fire. I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, absolutely. They had to rip my BlackBerry out of my hand and replace it with an iPhone for me to actually give it up. Like it was
yeah,
really
100%. You were right, and none of this trio talk.
yeah,
Like that was
no.
not happening for me. No.
Oh, I miss BBM. I miss my little
Yeah,
purple BlackBerry
BBM.
Pearl.
That's what it was. It was BBM
Yes.
Productions. I was crazy on
Yeah.
BBM. Like we were like I was so fast. They'd be like, then she would just say it in a scene, or I'd be like, it's holidays, it's Christmas.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
love that so
yeah.
much.
Well, thank you so much, Sophia, for
Thank
hanging out with
you.
us today. And we loved hearing about your experience as a producer on The Hills, The
Yeah.
City, Glee, and like everything you've done in your career so far and what you're going to do with your podcast. We're
Oh,
definitely going to be waiting for that.
Oh yeah.
thank you
Mhm.
so much. We'll have a beautiful weekend.
Thank you.
Yes,
You
thank
too.
you.